let's go ahead and get started. First, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Rebecca Weaver. I'm a vice president at CGI. And as we get started, I have a couple of quick announcements. First, this session is going to be recorded, and so it will be shared with you afterwards via email. If you're unable to attend, if you weren't able to join us live, then you'll receive it via email. Secondly, during the discussion, we'd love to hear from you. So we'll be using the stage chat on the right side that you're already interacting with. You can send messages to each other, you can add comments to each other, and you can send questions to the panelists. So we look forward to your engagement, and we hope that you use this as another opportunity to network with one another. So now I'm excited to kick off today's event. This one is called Reinventing Your Career, Navigating Change and Embracing New Opportunities, and it's been sponsored by CGI. For those who don't know, Fairygodboss is the largest career community for women. Millions of women visit Fairygodboss for career connections, jobs, community advice, hard to find intel about how companies treat women, and virtual events just like this one. I'm thrilled today to be joined by three of my colleagues, Gabby Leo, Jasmine Ward, and Kalpana Srinivasan. So over to my panelists. Would each one of you take a moment to introduce yourselves, please? We'd love to hear what's going on in your life personally, professionally, and what you do in your role today at CGI. Kalpana, I'll start with you.
Hello, Becca. Thank you so much. And I'm so excited to be included in this forum. My name is Kalpana Srinivasan, and I'm the Strategic Engagement and Inclusion Operation Manager in CGI. I've been with CGI for about 7 years now and moved into this specific role a few months ago. I moved in from a proposal manager role through our rotation program. So that's the professional side of me. And personal side, mom, a wife, a driver, a dishwasher, name it. So everything encompassed with that. So that's just me in a nutshell.
I love it. Driver, dishwasher. I think we can all relate there, or several of us can. Jasmine, over to you. Can you introduce yourself and tell us about your role at CGI?
Yes, hello. My name is Jasmine Ward, and I'm super excited to be here with this amazing group of panelists today. I am an HR business partner with CGI, and I currently live in Troy, Alabama, supporting members in our financial services industry. I've been with CGI for about 13 years now, and I've recently transitioned into my role as a HR business partner within the last year. So I'm kind of in my 1-year anniversary right now. I was previously a workforce manager, and I've held several different roles within CGI. So I'm definitely a product of the amazing rotation program here. And so I've had the opportunity to kind of shift and see business and corporate side and kind of flourish in that area. I too am a mom, and I am now going through a transitional phase, which means this particular discussion is a just-in-time discussion as I'm moving into an empty nester stage. My daughter just graduated high school, and so now I have to navigate change as a home alone. So I'm excited to be here today, so thank you.
Navigating change both professionally and personally at the same time, that is super challenging. Gabby, would you like to introduce yourself too?
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. My name is Gabby Leo. I'm based out of Dallas, Texas, and a part of our emerging technology practice. What that means is that we house a lot of the technologists in my group, and we support a lot of our functional teams with digital transformations. Specifically, I'm in our cloud and data analytics practice and lead our AI and ML teams. I've been at CGI for 5 years. I started off as a consultant working on data science and data engineering projects, and now I am a director leading about 15 people in the data space, which just means I'm responsible for their careers, and I also am responsible for helping sell more AI and ML work to clients currently and new ones that we're chasing to be an advisor in this space and make sure that my members are having fulfilling careers with the projects that I'm being able to bring in. On the personal side, I am not a mom yet. I'm still living the single life, and so I spend a lot of my time outdoors. I'm a big outdoor enthusiast. It's my favorite way to unplug and get rejuvenated. So I spend a lot of time, swimming, hiking, traveling to the mountains, getting out of the Texas heat in the summer for sure.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you all so much. I'm really excited for our discussion today. So for those who are just tuning in, I'd like to remind you that we're going to be answering questions that come directly from you in the audience. So please submit your questions in the chat on the right side screen, and we'll do our best to follow along and ask as many of your questions as we can of our panelists. So Gabby, I'm going to start with you since you just most recently had the mic. You've had a lot of growth in your years with CGI. Can you tell us more about your career journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started my career journey at CGI straight from college. I knew that I wanted to be hands-on, technical, using all the skills that I learned in my undergrad and master's of business analytics. But I also knew that I didn't want to just be stuck behind a keyboard all day. It was really important to me that I was interacting with the business to solve complex problems and tell stories utilizing data. So I knew that consulting would be a good fit for me where I could leverage both those sides of those skill sets. So I started off just as a consultant doing a lot of individual contributor type work. I had a lead I could go to help me on my projects. I had managers and mentors who invested in me and helped me grow. I progressed to a senior consultant where I was the lead on projects, managing a lot of the communications with the clients, gathering requirements from the client as well, continuing with hands-on development and moving more into that lead role of mentoring junior resources on my project. At this point, I started getting more comfortable being in that leadership position, started acting as a thought leader and presenting at conferences, helping in go-to-market initiatives as well, which really helped ease me into that transition of the director role. Well, now I spend 50% of my time managing my members' career and the other 50% of my time acting as a thought leader and a SME. I'm very, very hands off nowadays, which has been a bit of a switch up for me. I was used to hopping on my computer and coding all the time. But I am constantly having to stay educated on new technologies and AI to help advise our clients. And one that I'm sure you're all familiar with right now is ChatGPT or large language models. That's something that's kind of blown up my area of work. So it's been exciting to see that revolution. But it's definitely a role where you're continuously learning and your day-to-day varies a lot. You don't know what you're going to wake up to and what you're going to do that day. So I do love that aspect.
Love it. That's a lot of change to manage. Cal, what about you? What was your career journey? What brought you to CGI in your current role?
So my journey has been kind of a whirlwind of sorts. I started as a clinical counselor back in India, but during that time, being a counselor was just not well recognized or even encouraged. So to help me balance, the pressure and explore my creative side, I kind of joined a interior design course as a part-time thing, which led me to realize that that's what I want to do next. So I moved to the US and took up a master's degree in interior design. And as soon as I graduated, I started working in the design field. For a few years, I did pure design, but that's when the dot-com downfall happened and I lost my job at that time. And again, being international, I had to be so dependent on work to get my visa, my green card, to remain in this country. So then I looked for jobs. I moved cities. I was in Texas and I moved to Virginia, and I went to a design firm and I started working in their marketing department. And that's when I came across proposals. So I still I wanted to keep my background, my passion, everything connected. So I started doing proposals for architecture firms, and connected the dots. Did a lot of floor plans for architecture magazines. So that one led to the other, and then I moved to CGI about 7 years ago and came into a proposal manager role. And a few years ago, obviously when COVID hit, I took on a leadership role with our Asian American Pacific Islander MRG, which are our member resource group. So it took me about 2 years from that time to connect the dots, lead, different discussions, meet with people, connect. And this new role popped up and now with the SEI team. And, when that role came up, I put my name in the hat, and that's where I am right now. So it's been a journey.
It truly is a journey. Different countries, different lines of work entirely. Excited to hear more from you. Jasmine, so you and I have had similar experiences where we've spent all of our career here at CGI, but we've also had a lot of pivots and a lot of different roles along the way. So can you tell us more about your career journey here at CGI?
Yes. It's so interesting because I started while I was finishing up my college degree. So I was in a customer service role at CGI. And we all know as a college student, my goal was to make a few dollars to get a meal. That is it. I never had any intentions of building a career at CGI. And partly that came from a lack of knowledge of what the offerings would be at CGI and what type of company it was. And so going through those opportunities, I was supported in finishing up my college degree as well as going through graduate school as well. And so when I think about HR, I just automatically assumed I would immediately roll into that type of job and that in any industry, right? Just moving into HR. And so I had the amazing opportunity where here locally, an opportunity in our HR department here opened up, and I was able to pivot and start my HR career there. And I know that's definitely not typical to actually I know for HR professionals to immediately jump into those types of roles. But it just kind of happened that it opened up in that area. And so I was able to grow, and that role actually allowed me to understand some of the foundational understandings around CGI from a corporate standpoint, some of the back office things, how we make things move in our HR systems, how do we help support our employees and our managers here. And so that gave me the visibility to understand where to give a good foundation for me. As I was growing and looking on how I would expand my career, I was still in a place where I didn't know what I wanted to do, right? So I always say to myself, what do I want to be when I grow up, right? Because I feel like I'm still growing up even now. And so I decided to say, well, if I didn't know what I really wanted to do, what were some of my skills and what were some of the things I was passionate about? And how could that transfer into opportunities? And so I knew I enjoyed engagement, talking with our employees, helping, being of service to others. And so an amazing opportunity as a workforce manager opened up. And for CGI, I always call it internal recruiting, if you will. And we were helping people find new opportunities. I was actually being able to be a part of their journeys, actually able to add value and contribute to their overall satisfaction within CGI in terms of finding them another role that they would be passionate about, an opportunity where they could rotate into a field or industry or background that would be that aligned to their career desires. Inside of that, I knew I still had this passion for HR. And so while I wasn't too far out, I knew that I still needed to get back into my space where I felt comfortable and I felt like I could thrive. And so a year ago, I was able to pivot into an HR business partner role. So I was able to get an understanding of the business side through my workforce management role and combine that with the corporate side from HR and to be the best of both worlds. And so I think that really helps to define what it means to be a business partner. So I'm working with HR, but I'm also a business partner because I understand the needs and desires and the challenges of the business. And so all of these opportunities have helped to pivot me into the role I'm in today, which is I'm on my career journey now.
Jasmine, I can see your positivity. It just radiates. It seems like in every role you found something really positive, and it could have been the right place for you. What made you decide to make that career change and pivot to find where it seems like your heart truly is now as an HR business partner?
So it's so interesting you asked that question because when I went in, right, I had this grand plan. Do we all not write out what we really want to do in life and we have it jotted down? Oh, and then we have the audacity to put a timeline on it. It's going to happen this point in time, this date, and this is going to happen. And it's almost laughable when I look at my timeline, right? Nothing happened exactly the way I wanted it to happen when I thought it should happen. But I do believe everything happened to get me to the point where I am now. I never thought that workforce management would have been a career move for me. And so when I look back, it was such a huge added value because I came in with the business acumen. I came in understanding the needs of the business, being able to talk with my leaders because my leaders don't understand my HR language, right? So when I'm talking to them about, and I'm saying certain terminology, that's foreign to them. But when I went in with the mindset of I knew how the language that they were speaking. And so it just helped to align me to how I can put my passion for HR and how that works with the business side. And so I always find myself saying your path possibly will never flow the way you have envisioned it, but accept every opportunity to learn something from wherever you're at now to press forward and find those transferable skills. Because that's what I had to do. I had to figure out what was transferable in the role that I was in and be the best that I could be in that role, because I knew that that was going to be one of the stepping stones to help me as I continue to want to branch out and pivot. And so I'm still learning. I'm still waiting to grow up to figure out who I want to be.
Love that. And Callie, you're kind of similar. You've gone through a whole bunch of different roles too. What brought you to your current role? What made you decide that that was the one for you?
Yeah. Again, Jasmine was so spot on so many levels. For me, it was personal satisfaction. It was going back to my roots, right? As I mentioned early on, I was a clinical counselor. It was a people thing. I needed to be in touch with people and communicate, and that was where my passion laid. And then I feel like that's when I was at a junction in my career where I was just so focused on moving ahead, where I didn't stop and see, what did I really want out of my job, and where do I want to, grow as I get older, right? And I do want to be in a happy place. So I think it was more a personal satisfaction and how I wanted to make the connection and connect my dots. And I didn't feel that in my previous paths and in career, where I did meet a lot of people, but it was not very personal. I didn't make an impact. I was not making a difference. And that was what it was. I wanted to make a difference in people's lives. I wanted to see where I could help them grow. I could help them achieve what they wanted to do. And for me, it took me a long time to get where I am. And I don't think you need to have that much time to get where you are if you have the right connections, you have the right people and the right motivation. So I feel like that's what made me shift. And I'm so glad I got that opportunity within CGI. And it wouldn't have been possible if I didn't invest that time, take that time to be part of those MRGs and lead them and make that connection. So that's the big shift that happened.
Yeah, having that hindsight, you're able to see the things that brought you along the way. Gabby, I'm curious, if you look back at your career and the moves that you've made, is there anything that you'd wish that you had known before making the transitions that you have?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I didn't end up making a big industry transition or vertical transition. It was more from going from a hands-on contributor to a manager. And man, I wish I would have opened up sooner with some of the things I was feeling to my leaders and to my mentors. I was taking on a lot of what was happening with my members really personally, right? The challenges they were running into, their professional goals they had, if I was able to help them get there or not. I took it all on myself, and I wasn't really creating these boundaries between work and my life at home. So I was losing a lot of sleep, right? It was really emotionally strenuous when I first started this job, and I didn't want to open up to anyone about it because I didn't want to look like this leader that was failing, right? But I ended up trusting some of my peers and my bosses, and they were like, whoa, you need to start focusing on what is in your control and what you can handle, and that's going to help your members and that's going to help their career. So my advice would be make sure you have people around you that you can trust. Make sure you open up. It's okay not to look strong all the time, right? You do need help, and it's okay to reach out for that support.
Yeah, thank you for sure. Cal, was there anything that you wanted to add about other things that you wish that you had known earlier?
I think, early on in my career, I didn't have a good networking space or a good network of people or women who really cheered me on, and I think it was also because I was so, as Gabby said, heads down on my job, just looking at 9 to 5, trying to get my work done, moving up, making sure I had all the check boxes, and making sure that I did everything right. And through the path, I kind of lost that vision, and I didn't have that, champion people who championed me to say that, the network of people. So I wish I had known that a little earlier, that find my people, network with people. And it's not, you're not alone, you have a voice, you can speak up. So I wish I had known that a little earlier. My voice is well heard now. I mean, I speak. I don't hesitate. And I think that's what's taught me is don't hesitate and, be yourself. I think that's been a learning journey for me.
I love that. And I love to see the network building that's happening in the chat right now as folks are connecting. Jasmine, you're getting a lot of call outs. So Jasmine, on that subject of networking, can you tell us, how did you go about building relationships and establishing credibility as you transitioned into each one of your new roles?
So one, I will say this, I found, to Cal and Gabby's point, is a network of people. I identified a mentor where I worked, not just an external mentor like someone outside. Of course, I have that as well, to give a larger perspective, but just internally in CGI as well. I knew where I wanted to go. So I needed to find someone who aligned within that role that I wanted to be in. And so with that, they provided me with knowledge. They provided me with guidance and kind of what I needed to create or to build out myself for that role that I wanted to be in. And so with that understanding, I took the guidance that they were providing me and I tried to figure out how to implement that in the role that I was currently sitting in, right? And so that looks like if I wanted to become more strategic, if I wanted to present myself as someone who was ready to transition into that next role, I definitely had to figure out who I was going to be and who I wanted to show up as in those roles as well. And so I found myself just really leaning into understanding the business, learning what their challenges were, as I've stated earlier, figuring out what people needed and getting in a space where I am value add to them. So that meant I needed to lean in more to what their challenges. I needed to lean in more to what their desires were. I needed to lean in more and show that I cared enough to learn what they were doing. And when I learned what they were doing, I was able to then figure out how was I going to contribute to that? How was I going to help either make their world better? How I was going to help them achieve the goals that they have in place? What could I do to that? And I think when you take the time to just stop and not just go in so aggressively thinking that your way and your ideas is like just going to be fantastic, right? It doesn't always work that way. You have to figure out how those things translate over. You have to figure out how those things can really benefit them and be a trusted partner. So I sat and I said, hey, let me listen in, or let's have a one-on-one with that. And so from there, I was able to build relationships. And I know we're in a virtual environment. I enjoy coming in the office, as you can see, because I'm a talker, and you can see that as well. But I made it a mission to really show myself on camera. So if you're working in this remote environment, I encourage everyone, turn on the camera every now and then, especially in spaces where you have a larger audience or you're going to be speaking a lot, just so people can see the human side of you. People can then put a name and a face together. People can see that you are a person, you can be a value add. And there's, just this relatability that's behind it. I don't always wear makeup. I don't always have my hair done, and neither do they, right? So let's just relate on the fact that we're barely here right now. We're just trying to function. So I think that really just allows you to show up and become relatable and personable, but also it creates this place where you can be trusted within the groups that you're a part of.
So well said, Jasmine. And I'm in my COVID special. I'm not going to stand up on my screen because I'm working from home today. Cal, as you were identifying the need to build your network, can you share how did you start to build those relationships? What skills did you bring out?
Sure. So again, my biggest thing is that with connections, I not intentionally connected. I connected with no expectations. It was very organic. I just found that I kind of in my head, I kind of decide or figured out what my passion was, where I want to be. And then I started building network with, going to meetings with people where they had similar paths like I wanted to get into. And I built that connection with no expectation of any returns. And again, during COVID, CGI started developing a lot more, or opened up channels for a lot of when we call them member resource group, their employee resource group. in the world outside. So we started all these channels, and that's where most of the work that I did the last 2 years were volunteer work. It just made me happy, and I just didn't hesitate to reach out to people and connect the dots and say, hey, I want to do this. How do I go about doing it? And they were happy to see somebody ask these questions. So ask the questions, build your network with no expectations. It just leads you, because when you leave an impression, when you leave lasting impression on somebody, they will remember you. And if something opens up, they'll connect the dots again, reach back out to you and say, you were interested in something. Do you want to do this? I think that was my biggest thing, is connecting without expectations.
Thank you, Cal. All right, let's grab a couple of questions from the chat. It's been really, really active, which is great to see. So I'm going to pull this question from Jeannie. Jasmine, you mentioned the rotation program. Can you explain a little bit more about that? And then Cal or Gabby, if you have anything to add in, please go ahead.
Oh, yes. Oh, you're touching on my sweet spot. So I will say now CGI has formalized a rotational program that really speaks to how do we tap into our talent that we currently have here, right? And a part of that is visibility. And as Cal and Gabby has alluded to earlier, sometimes we get focused in. And I always tell some of my members, like, hey, sometimes you got to lift your head up out the water, right? And see what's going on the surface up there, because there can tend to be a lot of things going on. But now CGI has created platforms and resources that allow you to be more in control of your career. We are a large organization. It's global, right? And so you really don't know what you don't know until you just kind of stick your head up out the water and really tune in. And that also goes into networking as well. And so because of this formalized rotational program, we've been able to tap into you identifying your skills, your capabilities, your competencies, and it gives those who are influencers, like our leaders, insight into your skills and capabilities, to the point where it's not always I'm going to raise my hand, but sometimes you get called on because you have a special skill, or you've education or certifications that you've obtained on your own, that is something we're going after from a business perspective, proposal perspective, that you can lean into. And so I really appreciate the fact that CGI has heard the members and saying, hey, I want to do something more. I want to grow. How do I upskill? And we have now seen the investment in upskilling, because we know technology is changing. The world is changing. So how do we remain marketable and competitive? And that goes through upskilling. And upskilling then allows you to rotate and see how you can grow your career. And so unlike maybe some other companies, because we're a consulting organization, you can really craft out your path here. And that's what I love the most. You do not have to stay stagnant or just stay a developer or just stay a project manager. You can be an agile coach, an RTE. Like, there's just an array of opportunities, and you get to build that here at CGI. So I really enjoy that.
I'd also like to add that, our rotation program is very versatile. And I also think that we need to look into what our expertise are. We're very cross-functional, right? Any job that you have, it can be cross-functional. I came from a proposal world. I have marketing experience, but what was I doing there? I was doing network. I was a PMO. So I had project management. I had a lot of the software skills. How can I use it in another field? So I just feel like sometimes you have to look at other fields and see where you can connect those dots. And that way it makes it easy to rotate in other positions.
Yeah, I remember when I first got interviewed here, one of the questions that was asked of me is, what's going to keep you with the company? And it's been 23 years now. So I think my answer at the time was, as long as I'm still growing and learning and trying new things and getting new opportunities, why would I ever leave? And that's been the case with the company being as large as it is, and the rotation opportunities that are available. I've gotten to do something new every 2 to 3 years, which keeps it fresh and interesting. This next question, Cal, I'm going to start with you, and then Gabby and Jasmine, feel free to add in here. Tiffany's asking, she's currently in a chief of staff PM role, but she has a drive and a desire that's leading her to people and culture. And so she wants to make a drastic career shift from one area of focus to the other, and is having a hard time getting in the door because she doesn't have that background to prove her experience, but knows that she has the skills and the passion to be successful. So as you're making career shifts that are of that nature, of changing from one area of focus to another, any tips on how she can move forward and be successful in that way?
So that's kind of really asking to give you an example of how I made that shift from a proposal or from a interior designer to where I am. Look inside your organization. Might be volunteer some of your current time into a project with another team which does similar things to get an idea on what they do. That would help you put something on your resume. Just going fresh and applying to a new job, as you said, you don't have that skill set. You might have it, but not realize you have it. But if you work within your organization, sometimes learning on the job is what it is. So if you have a team in your organization which does what you are looking to move to, go volunteer time with them. Just say, hey, I want to spend some time with you all. I'll work on a project. Just be open-minded, as Melissa just has pointed out, and go experiment with another team, give it your fullest, see how you can transfer your knowledge into another field. And that adds value to your resume. And that's your first step towards another position.
And I would add, I think this is a theme you'll hear a lot, but networking and finding a mentor who can advocate for you. You would be so surprised how many emails I get from clients recommending people. And we always take the first interview. They're our clients, right? We want to make sure we're able to advocate for me.
Okay. Gabby, can you expand on that a little bit? How have you found mentors within your career? Nicolina asked a question in the chat about whether CGI has a formal mentorship program, or if not, how are you doing that?
Yeah, so I do it both ways. Inside of our group, we do have a formal mentorship program. So everyone that comes in, whether you are a new hire or experienced hire, you sit down with your manager and we talk through what your career goals are, where you think you want to end up in the next 5 to 10 years. And we look through who our senior leaders are and we partner them up with them. And they actually have to meet at least monthly to discuss their career progression, how their project's going, things like that. So it acts as another touch point for their manager, just to understand if they're growing and what we could be doing to help them grow towards where they want to be. So we do have more of a formal program there in my group. And I know the greater CGI is actually piloting something right now called Mentor Mosaic, which is going to be across BUs, trying to partner you up with senior resources who have a similar career path as you. So more to come there. But I also think this can happen organically, right? So if you go out and find someone that you've worked with before, maybe you were on a project with them and you're like, wow, I want to be them. I love the way they work. I love the type of work they're doing. Reach out and have a chat. That goes back to networking, right? And you don't have to have any agenda when you're coming to that chat besides just getting to know them and talking to them and asking them questions about their career and getting to know them personally. And so I would encourage you, if you don't have a program formally, to go do that organically and find those people who have a career that you see yourself having in the future.
Becca, if I could add a small little bit on the mentorship. So we have mentors and we have champions. So they are interchangeable. A mentor could be your champion. So just because you have a mentor doesn't mean that they can't be your champion. Those are the mentors who you form bonds with, go out to the world, and they might hear of, positions out there that you might not be privy of, and they would be your champions. And I think that's where you find your allyship. Those are things that as we grow in our career, we find people who can be mentors, who can be champions, and the allies you form with them is what takes you to that next position that you're looking for. So don't hesitate to ever, voice out what you want to do to anybody who'll stop and listen to you for 30 seconds also.
That is perfect feedback. Some of the questions that we're getting are around, how do you self-advocate for making a career change? And what do you do if you have a manager who's maybe not as open to allowing you to try those new opportunities? So Cal, I think what you just said feeds well into those questions. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, I mean, if there's a manager who does not support you, you just have to find uh, a back door, find volunteering within your organization. There's going to be support for you. A manager might not, give you that opportunity, might be because your current job is already, at a 40-hour max, and might feel that, you'd be overworked. But go back to that manager, have a use case. I mean, advocate for yourself and say why it is a personal growth for you. Don't stop at trying.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, Gabby, there's a question in the chat that I think you would have some great input on. Let me have to scroll just a second. What advice do you have to give someone who feels stuck in their current career path and is considering making a change?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the first thing you need to understand is where you want to get to and make a plan to get there. So we highly encourage coming up with those objectives and then breaking them down into smaller pieces. This is something funny. One of my mentors always told me, if someone told you you needed to eat an elephant, where would you start? Like, how could you break that down? It's in small pieces, right? If you look at it, oh, I want to get here in 5 years, that's going to be very overwhelming. So I think you need to break it down into very consumable pieces of, okay, this is something I can do today to get started. And at least in the technology space, a lot of that is going to be around upskilling in new technologies and getting new certifications. And even not in the technology space, there are different ways that you can go get certifications to showcase that you're invested in learning in this area and you're taking the steps to become knowledgeable in that space. So I would say come up with a plan, make it very actionable, and start small with something that you know you can achieve.
Yeah, and Gabby, I would add to that as well as, and I said this earlier, right? Think outside the box. The path doesn't always look straight, right? And so think about how you can maybe pivot into something where you're passionate. It might not be exactly what you want to do, right? But it's going to be an added value as you go on your journey to get to where you're going to do, where you want to be. So when the opportunity arises for a special project, or to network or connect with someone outside of your space or outside of your group, take those opportunities. Don't take it lightly. Take full advantage of those opportunities, because they too will help at least get you some level of visibility, right? So just being open to not having this straightforward, it has to go A, B, C, and being able to jump from A to K, back to B, and those things. So that way you can definitely, you're setting yourself up, right, to be successful. And so all those skills that you obtain will always help you into that next level. So as you're looking to shift in your career, think about those places where it's, it works for where you're at. It provides you something that you need there, and then you take those skills and you move on to the next space until you get to exactly where you want to be. But consume those opportunities to do something just a little bit different.
And if I could add, when we talk about network, don't only internally network, externally network. There are a lot of those external summits you can attend. There is, network through LinkedIn, network through your network of people might have a different network of people. So it's networking internally and externally. Be it your current career, you want to pivot to another career or a different organization, go find those organizations where you can go and be part of. Look for summits, any open road shows, go be part of that.
Yeah, I can talk to that for a second. So Cal, I actually knew of you before I ever worked with you because of your LinkedIn posts and because of your volunteer work on the MRG, the Member Resource Group. So
Absolutely, Becca.
Well done. Okay, Deborah has a question. She's a recent college graduate. So she wants to know from the panelists, what do you wish that you had known earlier in your career about career jobs or career changes and job searches? Gabby, why don't you go first?
This is some advice I give to everyone because it's advice I got and it worked very well for me. I think a lot of times you place a lot of importance on, oh my gosh, this is, the biggest decision in my life. I need to make sure I make the right decision here. first off, be super flexible. What you do today might not be what you do tomorrow. It's definitely not going to be what you're doing in 10 years. So find what works for you right now. But secondly, personally, I really care about the people that I work with. And that's something that I discovered through my interview process. I could tell right off the bat who I was getting along with, who I saw being my manager. And when I was trying to come down to the decision of a couple of different offers I had coming out of college, I went and spoke with a friend, and specifically in consulting back then, you were traveling a lot, almost every week to the client site. And so they asked me, hey, Gabby, are these people you would potentially want to spend 12 hours stuck in an airport with when your flight gets canceled? And the light bulb immediately went off in my head that I was going to take the offer from CGI, because every single interaction I had was with people that I genuinely enjoyed being around and that I wanted to work with. And so you can work on cool projects with cool technologies at a lot of different companies, but keep in mind, you spend 8 hours a day with these people. Sometimes that's more than what you spend with at home, right? So make sure that you enjoy the people that you're working with would be my number one piece of advice.
Awesome. Jasmine, you want to go next?
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree. I think when you're early on in your career, we're trying to get the job, we're trying to make the money, right? And I know that things change as we grow, as we get older, right? Our desires and our needs, the Maslow hierarchy of needs, all that kind of shifts, right? And you're trying to kind of figure out what those needs are. But early on, to Gabby's point, getting in a space where you can thrive with the people you're working with is so important. I know they say people don't quit jobs, right? They quit managers, they quit leaders. And so being able to get in a space, not just for the monetary standpoint, right? So a place where you are actually under good leadership and good growth, and you're going out reading LinkedIn's, other testimonials, information about the different companies that you're going to work for, will help to grow your career. And even if that's just a stepping stone, right? You're going to be there your first, 5 years, or what those first 5 years are so influential in how you view the workforce and how you view companies and how you view leadership, because you don't really know leadership styles, right? So everyone has a different leadership style, but inquiring about that during the interview process. What is your leadership style? What kind of leader are you? Do you support growth? What do you do to help? Because I do have an expectation that my manager is going to be one of my mentors. That is one of my expectations, right? You're going to help me grow my career. You're going to be open to sharing your knowledge with me, and you want to see me be successful, right? So asking those very important questions up front, so that way you kind of understand it. Does that work for you? Because everybody is different, right? But making sure you are under someone who is intentionally invested in your success is going to be so important as you start your career out.
I recently read something, and I'm not going to get the quote right, but it's along the lines of, during an interview, remember that you're interviewing both ways. Mm-hmm. It's not just, are they going to select you, but you're choosing if that's where you're going to be spending your time, and that's where you're going to invest your next step in your career. I love that, Jasmine. Thank you. Cal, anything to share there?
Becca, when you said that it's a two-way thing, I think we've come a long way on that, right? It never was a two-way. At least when I started my career, it was never a two-way. It was always that I needed the job. Thank you for hiring me, right? But now it's a two-way. But with a two-way, it becomes where, you're interviewing the interviewee. It rolls reverse very fast. But I also feel like the flexibility part is so important. And, for early career professionals, be flexible, be able to, form allyships, be able to go over and beyond. There's never, a day when I'm like 8 hour clocking out. It is what it is, right? So be able to be flexible and also have a balance. Your mental health is important. So take everything into consideration. Be able to talk to people, reach out to people. So again, I agree with whatever Gabby and Jasmine and you said, but the being flexible to me is most important.
That's perfectly led into a question from Kayla. She's asking if you have any advice on how to balance performing well in your job while also trying to advance your career. When you're already spread thin and like you said, likely clocking out after the 8-hour mark, how are you doing both? How are you performing in your job while also taking on, in Cal, your example, your volunteer opportunities as well?
Right. I feel like with everything else in life, we have to pick our battles, right? We have to pick what's most important for us. Pick what you might have 10 tasks, in your personal career growth. Pick what's most important for you and achieve that. Then I think things follow. It's a natural progression, and I think it organically will evolve. So pick what's most important to you and work on that, and that will open up doors for everything else that will follow through. Is what I have believed in, and I think that's what has gotten me where I am right now.
Yeah, I was gonna chime in. There's a book called Essentialism, Kayla, that I think you would love to read. I read it recently because I felt this way. I felt like I was taking on way too many things, and I wasn't able to accelerate in the things that I was actually interested in because I was a yes man and I was saying yes to everything. So, like Cal said, I'll take it even a step further. It's okay to say no, and you have to choose what you're saying no to. But the things that you do say yes to, you're going to wholeheartedly pour everything you have into that, and that's going to showcase your work ethic, and still it's going to help you advance in your career.
Jasmine, anything to add there?
Oh yes. No, I just agree with both of them in terms of just kind of figuring out what you're passionate about, right? And that also just kind of comes from, as you're trying to balance it out, don't wait until you're what I say fed up, right? Don't wait until you've just gotten to this point where you just can't take anymore, because something is going to suffer, right? Once you get there. But once you have created self-awareness about what's going on around you and your environment, the things that you're passionate about, are you really achieving the goals? And that requires a check-in. I do about a quarterly check-in and make sure, like, am I happy? Am I okay? Right? Checking in with myself from my career perspective, and then identifying areas where I want to see myself grow. And then how I can utilize the resources I have at my disposal to help me get to that next level. But again, like I said, not waiting until you're just having, smoke blowing out your ears, but creating that self-awareness helps you to stay in front of this stagnation and this frustration that you feel about the stage of your life and that career that you're at, those pivotal changes you're trying to make, and saying, where am I at? So that helps you always be in a position where you are in control, in a sense, of this environment, this career, this journey, right? Because you're staying, kind of one step ahead of things. And so it's important to help you as you try to shift and navigate.
Yeah, you hit it. Staying in the driver's seat, staying in control. All right, so I have a question for you all. This one's coming from Fairygodboss. Fairygodboss has a tradition of asking panelists to share an accomplishment, because what they've observed is that women have a natural tendency to not brag or not share about the things that they have achieved. So Cal, I want to give you the floor, and would you mind sharing with us an accomplishment, either personal or professional, that you are most proud of?
So coming this long journey where I've been stuck for a long time, to finally be able to merge my passion and creativity in my job is what I really proud of. Passion of connecting people and creativity of implementing ideas. So I'm really proud that my voice is heard and it is meaningful.
Thank you, Cal. Jasmine, how about you?
I'm really excited about, as a single parent to a daughter, right? She is able to see me thrive, and it's so interesting because Mother's Day, she wrote in a little card that she admired my work ethic, and so that really just kind of spoke to the fact of who she sees me showing up as now, right? As we see these changes in the workforce, as we see these changes in diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? She's going in with a different voice that I didn't have, to Cal's point, and she's going to hopefully be able to find herself a little bit sooner than I did, and who she will be. And so for me to have accomplished these goals, again, not a straight path. I took some jumps to get there, but I'm there and continuing to press forward to achieve those goals that I haven't set in place. And the support of CGI has been pivotal to that, and it's really provided me the space to really show up as my authentic self. So I'm really proud of the accomplishments I've been able to achieve thus far.
Gabby, how about you?
Yeah, absolutely. Mine is around CGI supporting women in leadership. So, an accomplishment I'm very proud of is becoming a director within 4.5 years of starting my career. I truly never envisioned myself leading a team of 15 to 20 people, utilizing some really novel technologies, working with really large clients in the US, all by the age of 27. If you would have told me that, it wasn't in my plan, and I wouldn't have believed it. And most times, I am the youngest in the room and also the only woman in the room. And this has only fueled my motivation to continue to push further and further into leadership and showcase that, women do belong at the table. And while experience does play a very important role in career advancement, I'm very grateful to work for a company that values and acknowledges young talent and is going to continue to invest in our careers.
Gabby, that truly is an accomplishment. You should be very proud of that. I'm glad that you said it out loud. I understand being the youngest at the table and also being the only woman at the table, especially in ETP. So really well done. Jasmine, I would love to know, and this may be a softball for you, but I'd love to know, what is your favorite thing about working at CGI?
Oh, I have thoroughly enjoyed the connections that I've made. I've had the opportunity to connect on a global level. I've been able to really see other spaces, other lights, other ways of thinking, which have then pushed me to, like I said, think outside the box, be more strategic in my thinking and utilizing those resources. So it's always good to know somebody in the right place to get you where you need. So I'm not expected to know all the answers, but I know somebody who probably can get me the answer. So being able to build out those relationships within CGI to the extent where even if I travel somewhere, I know someone in that city potentially that's like, hey, you're in the city, let's go to dinner. And so you just kind of really can understand and have this space where if I'm going to spend, like Gabby said earlier, if I'm going to spend most of my hours here, right, I want to build out those connections and being able to connect in different areas, different time zones, different countries. And so seeing others out there really helps me to feel a part of this larger organization.
Thank you. Cal, what do you like best?
CGI has given me the platform to grow. And I think that's been amazing. Like Gabby said, she's one of our youngest directors. Jasmine has had the opportunity to move and rotate. Similarly, I've been given the opportunity to explore, and they've never stopped me. So I think that's that's valuable. I've come from other companies where this was not possible. So CGI has really helped me grow professionally and personally. I've made connections where I can, call them, friends outside the office work. So I think that's something that is really rare to find.
And Gabby, anything to add on CGI?
What I was going to say here is what I talked about earlier, and just finding people that you love working with. That's been my favorite thing about CGI. It's a huge reason why I'm still here. I would go anywhere with my team. I love working for them. I love working with them.
You all previously gave advice to a recent college grad. I'm wondering, if you were talking to your younger self, what message would you tell her? Let's see. Jasmine, why don't you go first?
I probably would just break it down real simple. Girl, you got this. You got this. I found myself in spaces where I questioned myself. I questioned, my knowledge, my worth, all those different kind of things. And had I knew then what I know now, I probably wouldn't have cried so many tears. I probably would not have, questioned a lot of things about the decisions that I was making, because I knew that if I knew this point was coming, but sometimes you don't know that, right? And so the part is just keep pushing forward. You only are a failure when you stop, when you're stopping. So as long as you're pressing forward and you're trying your best to go to the next level, invest in yourself, believe in yourself, you're going to be successful in the place that you're at, and you enjoy those spaces that you're in. pat yourself on the back because you have actually taken a step forward. So, girl, you got this.
I love it. Cal, how about you? What would you tell your younger self?
Set your goal and keep moving forward, right? The goal is the goal, but how you achieve it can it needn't be the same path that you thought you would be taking. The flexibility to achieve that goal in a different manner is okay, and then that's what it is. I feel like set your goal, keep moving forward, and then be flexible. And I think that if I had said to my young self, I would definitely have been where I am much earlier. So
It's powerful. Gabby?
I'm going to echo what they were both saying. I think a lot of times we all have goals where we want to get in our life and we attach a timeline to it. And I've done this many times as well. But life's going to throw you a curveball and you're not going to know what's happening next. And so you have to be flexible. And something one of my bosses told me one time was, and not to get sad here, but what do you want your tombstone to say when you die? Not Gabby was a director by 27, right? You're not going to have, she made senior consultant in 2 years. That doesn't matter. My goal is that I had a fulfilling career and that, I want to be a mother and be able to raise my kids and have flexible work-life balance. So if my tombstone reads, Gabby was a loving mother, that's great with me. And no one needs to know how many years it took me to get to XYZ. So like everyone's saying, just there's many different twists and turns to get to where you're going. Just remember that final goal that keeps pushing you forward.
Wow, that was powerful, Gabby. I can think of no better way to close this out. So we'll wrap up the questions at this point. I really want to thank so much Gabby, Jasmine, and Kalpana for joining us today and for sharing such fantastic advice. Thank you all very much as well for tuning into the discussion and being so involved with the chat. We really enjoyed your questions. So as a reminder, we'll be sending out a recording of today's event along with some additional resources to learn more about opportunities at CGI. In the meantime, you can check CGI's profile and jobs on Fairygodboss, and we hope that you will come join us. We'd love to hear your feedback to help us improve future events. So head over to the Typeform tab on the right side of your screen and share your thoughts. It's a 1-minute survey. Thank you all so much, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks all.